Okay. Okay, today's daf Be'ezras Hashem is daf Tzadik Dalid, and we're starting from daf Tzadik Gimel Amud Beis, about like 6 lines from the wide line. I'll make the Gemara a little bit larger here.
Yeah.
So Rav Shaisis. So the Gemara is talking about over here. We know if you read the Mishnah, and the concept of the Mishnayos here are talking about a husband went Medina Sayyam, and then somebody comes, one aide comes, one witness says, "Oh, by the way, your husband died." So she goes ahead and marries somebody else, and then the husband shows up. And the husband came back. This happened a lot after the war. People had to rely on one aide to get married. So if she did that, the Mishnah says that she has to leave the second husband, and she has to get a get from the second husband, and she can't go back to the first husband. She can't go back to the first husband, and there's a lot of severe penalties on her. She loses her ksuba. The reason why, and very important here, the reason why she needs a get from the second husband, turns out she wasn't even married to the second husband because her first husband was alive. So the reason is that people should not think that a woman could leave a marriage without a get. People see she was married to the second guy for many years, and then all of a sudden she's walking out of the marriage without a get. Chazal required her to get a get from the second person. And not only that, she can't go back to her original husband who just showed up, because we're punishing her for not doing the research and making sure that her husband indeed passed on. And because she didn't with the research, she relied on one aide. That's why she cannot go back to her original husband. So that's what we learned in the Mishnah. So fascinating question that Rav Shaisis asked. Boy, my name Rav Shaisis. They asked from Rav Shaisis. Aid echad biyabama mahu. If one aide comes and says your husband died, now instead of her going married to somebody else, she now falls to Yibam. In other words, the case of the Mishnah is that in the Mishnah, one aide comes, says your husband died. She goes ahead and marries somebody else. Here, one aide comes and tells your husband died. She doesn't have children. Now she's supposed to fall to Yavam. She's a Yevamos. She's supposed to fall to Yibam. So what should be the difference? The Gemara's question is, can you believe that one aide? You would think there's no difference, but the Gemara has a very psychological difference over here. So first the Gemara says, what should be the difference? Tama da eid echad, all reasons why we always believe one aid, mishum de milsa da avide legluye, loy mishaker. Something that you could eventually prove wrong, nobody's going to lie. And therefore, we believe that one aid when he says that the husband died, because the husband could potentially show up and he's going to look like a liar, so he's not going to lie. Same case also over here. If the person says that your husband died, you're now a Yevama, you're supposed to fall to Yibam, loy meshaka, he's not lying. Oidilma, listen to this. As I said to you, the reason why you normally believe one aid is because we rely that the woman herself is going to do research to make sure her husband dies. But if she's going to fall to Yibam, she's not going to make the research, because it could be she had a crush on her brother-in-law, and that's the reason why she's going to just rely on the one aid without any doing research on herself. And therefore, we should not believe the one aid. That's what the Gemara says. Adilma, time of the aid echad, why is always one aid believed? Mishum the ihi daiku uminasva, because we always rely not only on the one aid, but she herself, the woman herself, is going to also research the matter and make sure that her husband did indeed die and she gets married. But in this case, she's not going to do a research, because if she knows she's supposed to fall to Yibam, maybe she had like a crush, or she likes her husband's brother, Lloyd Daike, she's not going to do any research. She's just going to rely on the one aid, and she's going to get married. So that's the reason why one aid should not be believed. Amalahu Rav Shaisis said, Tinisihu, this is actually a Mishnah, which our Mishnah proves that one aid is believed, even if she's going to fall to Yibam. Because the Mishnah says, Amrullah, they told her, Meis b'nei fa'achal kach meis baleh. A woman whose husband and son her only son, went to Medina Siyam. They come back and tell her, unfortunately, they both died. Your son died first, and then your husband died. Well, when your son died first, now you don't have any children from your husband, and then when your husband died, you're supposed to fall to Yibam. So they told her that your son died first, then your husband died, and therefore you're obligated to do Yibam. And she did. She married her brother-in-law. And then another Aiden come and said, Chiluf hadvarim. The opposite happened. You were not supposed to marry your brother-in-law because your husband died first. When he died, the son was still alive, and therefore you weren't supposed to fall to Yibam. So therefore, she's illegally married to her Yavam, her brother-in-law. So that's an Ashes, that's an Erba. Teitze, the Mishnah says she has to divorce. And all children she has from that union is a mamzer because she's marrying her brother-in-law and she wasn't supposed to marry a brother-in-law. So the Gemara says, Hey Chidami, what is the case of the Mishnah? That means two Adam came first and said the story was your son died first and then your husband died, and therefore you're falling to Yibam. And then the others two Adam said you're not supposed to fall to Yibam because your husband died first and then your son. So why is the kid's mamzer? First of all, my chazas desamches ahane, smoich ahane. Why do you rely more on the second pair of Adam saying the truth? The first pair of Adam are just as strong. They're a pair of Adam saying the one way. So it's 2 against 2. And even if it was that's the case, mamzer. Why do they call the union with the brother-in-law that all the children are mamzerim? Suffolk mamzeru. It's a Suffolk mamzer because you have 2 witnesses with contradicting stories whether this woman is a Yevama or not. So therefore the Mishnah said that the children are a Suffolk mamzer. Chitema loidak, that the Mishnah is not pedantic and not precise. The Mishnah meant they're Suffolk mamzer. But Midik Sefer, the Sefer does say Arisha mamzer, Achron ain't a mamzer. In a different case, the Mishnah is very pedantic, very clear. Sometimes it is a mamzer, sometimes it's not a mamzer. So the Mishnah knows the difference between Suffolk mamzer and mamzer vadai. So Shmami no dafke ktani. So therefore, the Mishnah is very precise when it says that it is for sure a mamzer. So what would the Mishnah's case be talking about? Elav Shmami no, that's the case. Chad. There was one aid that said that she's supposed to fall to Yibam. And therefore, and 2 aids say no, that the first aid got it wrong, that she was not supposed to fall to Yibam. So Vatama, the Asibay trade Achushu. It's only because 2 Adim came and undermined that one aid. Therefore, the first, we believe the second pair that came because it's 2 versus 1. But if no 2 came afterwards, if you just had one aid, Mehemed, it would be believed. So what the Gemara's conclusion is that if one aid comes, says your husband died, and now you're supposed to pull to Yavam, that one aid is believed. The Ikad Amar, others say, that's never a question. That would never be a question whether you believe one aid, because it's not a question that to say, do you believe one aid? The afili ihiname mehemna, even she herself would be believed to say her husband died. Titnan, and fall to Yibam. Titnan. Let's say a woman went on a pleasure trip to Morocco. And she comes back and says, my husband died. Tida say she's permitted to marry, even though she's the only witness. And she's saying witness with a self-interest. Now she can get married to somebody else. And we don't say maybe she fell in love with somebody and she's making this whole story up, because that far we're not going to extend it unless we know something. Even if she said Meis Ba'ali, if my husband died, Tis Yaben, she could fall to Yibam. So she is believed by herself. So then even if a one aid who's not an interested party, if he would say that your husband died, she would fall to Yibam. So we would believe one aid with that story. So what is our question? What was the question to Rav Sheshes? When was the question? L'mishrei Yevama la'alma. That's another question. Whether you can permit a Yevama, for example, the other way. Let's say we know a Shemeres Yavam. She's supposed to fall to Yibam. And then they tell her, oh, by the way, your brother-in-law died. You don't fall to Yibam anymore. So now would one aid be believed to say that your brother-in-law died and you're a free woman and you can marry anybody you want? You were supposed to marry your brother-in-law because you were falling to Yibam. He died, and now you can marry anybody who you want. So would one aid be believed in that story? Listen to the psychological logic that we would say not. My Tama, why would we say one aid is believed? What's the difference? The aid echad mishum de milsi avida legluya lo mishaker, because something that would eventually be uncovered, something that the husband could come back or the brother-in-law could come back, a person will not lie. So therefore, also over here, if he says that the Yavam died, he's not going to lie because it's something that could eventually be proven that he was a liar if he shows up, if the Yavam shows up. So therefore, we should believe the Eid Echad. Or maybe Tama the Eid Echad. What's the whole reason why we believe one Eid? The Torah says you need two Eidim. Why? Because we're relying on her as well. Because she's doing the research. It's not just one aid permitting her to get married. It's the one aid plus her research finding out if her husband died. But in our case, when she's just the Shemeres Yavam, bonded to this Yavam, she's not going to do any research if one aid comes. Why? Because it could be the Misnahu. We go to Amid Aleph Tzadik Dalet, the Sanyale. Maybe she hated this brother-in-law, and therefore she did not want to fall to Yibam. So she says, one aid showed up, I'm not falling to Yibam. I'm so happy about that. So the question is, would we trust one aid regarding a Yavama to say that the brother-in-law died, the Yavam died, to permit her to marry anybody in the world? Now, remember, if she marries anybody in the world and she turns out it was wrong, it's only an Isser Lav. The Torah says, she can't marry anybody she wants until she gets Yibam Machalitza. Nevertheless, the question is, maybe we wouldn't believe even one aid in that. Amalu Rav Sheshes said, Tnei Suah. It's our Mishnah. Amru, the Mishnah says, Amru lo meis balech v'achakach meis b'nech. In the same case, they said your husband died overseas and then your son died. So basically, the husband died first and then the son died. She doesn't fall to Yibam. Then he says, and she married anybody but the Yavam. She married some out of the family. They told her, it was opposite the matter. You were supposed to fall to Yibam. Oh, Kate say, she should get divorced. And all children from the union are mamzerim, because the Mishnah is going according to Rabbi Akiva, who says when a woman who's supposed to fall to Yibam marries somebody else illegally, the children are mamzerim, even though it's just a law. But the bottom line is, the Gemara is trying to prove that this case was that they told her that she doesn't fall to Yibam is because there was only one aid. Why? Hey Chadami, what is the case of our Mishnah? Elema, do you say trey utrey? If our Mishnah was 2, that means 2 Eidim said you're not supposed to fall to Yibam. And 2 Eidim come along and say the story was just the opposite and you were supposed to fall to Yibam. So the question is, my chaz is the samach ahani, smoich ahani. Why do you rely on one pair of Eidim, rely on the other pair of Eidim? Why does the Mishnah say that the second pair of Eidim are the more truthful pair of Eidim, and the kids that she had from marrying outside, not the Yavam, are mamzerim? Who said? It's 2 versus 2. Maybe she was permitted to marry outside because 2 Eidim say that she's permitted to marry the outside. Another question is, mamzer, you're calling her union after the first union that she had after the Eidim came, produces mamzerim, Suffolk mamzerhu. It's a Suffolk mamzer because it's 2 versus 2. 2 said that you were allowed to marry and you don't need Yibam. 2 said now came along and said you do need Yibam. So it's 2 versus 2. So just because she married outside and she relied on the first pair of Eidim and had children, at very best, it's only a Suffolk mamzer. We don't know who's telling the truth over here. And maybe, so the Gemara says, do you want to say that the Mishnah loy dak, the Mishnah was not precise? And the Mishnah means that it's a Suffolk mamzer. The Mishnah does say sometimes it's a mamzer, sometimes it's not a mamzer. Shmami no, the dafka ktani. The Mishnah is very precise. If the Mishnah is calling the children of mamzerim, it means the Mishnah is saying that they're vaday mamzerim. How's that possible? It's 2 versus 2. Elalav. The answer is not so. Chad. One pair of aid said, oh, you're supposed to fall to Yibam. One aid said that. not a pair. One person said that you're supposed to fall to Yibam, and then two came and said, no, that one person got the story wrong, and you are supposed to fall to Yibam. In other words, one said you don't fall to Yibam, and two said you are supposed to fall to Yibam. So then it's 2 versus 1. That's why the 2 have strength. The time of the Asubay trade akshu. It's only because 2 undermine the first aid. But if it wasn't so, with the first aid saying that you don't fall to Yibam and you're permitted to marry anybody you want, Neheman, he would believe. So you see from here that one aid would be believed on releasing Shmeres Yavam to marry whoever she wants. So the Gemara says, that's what you prove from our Mishnah. I can see it's no proof. La'olam, our Mishnah is talking about Trey Utrey. Actually, there were 2 versus 2. And then why do you give power to the second pair of Adam, saying that she does fall to Yibam? Maybe the first pair of Adam are correct in saying that she does not fall to Yibam. Answers the Gemara, that means that the second pair of Adam are not just undermining the first pair of Adam, they're actually saying, you pair of Adam were impossible for you to say testimony because you were with us, or we know you were somewhere else, and therefore it's impossible for you to say testimony. And there's a Gzeres HaKosev, and this is very important. Even though 2 is believed, but if another 2 come and say, your testimony is impossible because you were somewhere else, or you were with us, so you weren't there when the event happened, we believe and give all the power to the second pair of Adam. So in our Mishnah, the reason why we're giving all power to the second pair of Adam, who are saying that this woman does fall to Yibam, is because they're Mazim, they do Hazama on the first pair of Adam. But you don't have any proof from our Mishnah where the one aid would be believed to release a Shmeres Yavam. Amalei Rab Mordechai Rab Ashi, Amalei Rab Achi Rab Ashi, that Rab Mordechai said to Rav Ashi, or Rav Acha said to Rav Ashi, that I have another proof. Tashma. The Mishnah says, Brisa says, a woman cannot say, my Yavam died. Oh, if she can't say, Shemeres Yavam that says, I know my brother-in-law in Japan, who I'm supposed to do Yibam with, died. She's not believed? Because we assume that she might be lying because she probably hates falling to Yibam, a forced marriage to her brother-in-law. So she herself would not believe. And she also is not believed to say, oh, my sister died, now I can marry her husband. You know, when a wife's sister dies, gives the other sister permission to marry that that sister's husband. We won't believe it because she has self-interest in mind. So we can medayek. He needed only the woman herself would not be believed to say Meis Yavami. Ha aid echa, but if one aid comes and says that your brother-in-law died, Nehemen, it would be believed. So here is a nice raya. Answers the Gemara, no, it might not be a good proof. According to your reasoning that you're always implying from the Brisa to saying that one aid would be believed. Let's aim a seifa. Let's look at the end of the Brisa, where it won't make sense, your inference. The Brisa says at the end, Ein ha'ish ne'eman lo yma meis. A man is not allowed to say, my brother died, now I'm forced to miyavim his wife. Man can't say, oh, my brother died, and he didn't have children, now I'm supposed to do yibam on his wife, because there's a self-interest. Maybe he had a crush on his brother's wife. He can't say, my wife died, now I can marry her sister. We don't trust him because he has self-interest in mind. So we darshan, who needed Doi Mehemen? He wouldn't be believed. If one aid says, oh, Mr. Your brother died, you're permitted to do Yibam, that wouldn't work. Because one aid is not believed when it comes to allowing a man to marry. Because Bishlam Agabe Isha, the reason why a woman, when we're doing a one aid, benefiting a woman, allowing her to marry, the reason why we get this into this whole business is Mishim Ukile, because we want to go easy on that woman, because Iguna Ikila Barabaram, because we don't want a woman to remain unmarried, so we believe one aid. Elagabi Ish, but regarding a man, my Ikalamemer, we would never believe one aid. And so you can't be medayik from the Mishnah, Ein Ha'ish wouldn't be believed. A man cannot say testimony about himself, but one aid could. Even one aid wouldn't work. So since you can't make this inference from the end of the Mishnah, brisa, you can't make an inference from the beginning of the brisa when the woman is saying testimony. So what is the chiddush of the brisa? It's telling me that a woman is not believed to say, my brother-in-law died. Of course, if one aid is not believed, then the woman herself would not be believed to say, my brother-in-law died. Ella, but the Gemara says, yes, there is a chiddush. Ki itzrach l'Rabbi Akiva itzrach. According to Rabbi Akiva, I would need you to tell me a novel idea that the woman herself is not believed. Because I would think only one aid is not believed, but the woman herself, she must be telling the truth. Because what would happen if she's not telling the truth and she marries and she's really supposed to fall to Yevam and she marries outside and she marries somebody else, she could actually cause her children to be mamzerim. And therefore, she's going to be very careful not to lie. So maybe I would have thought that you would believe the woman. A mamzer is possible from Chai Ve'Lavin. I would have thought that she's very concerned not to cause her children to become mamzerim. And therefore, she's very careful not to lie and to investigate the matter. So I might think you would believe her, Kamash Malam, that you don't believe her. So what the Gemara is now concluding, not only is one aid not believed, but even the woman herself is not believed, even though I could say that she probably wouldn't lie, because if she did lie, according to Rabbi Akiva, her children would be mamzerim. Nevertheless, she's still not believed. Rava says, Eid echad nema b'yavama. An Eid echad could release a yavama. A shemeres yavim could be released by one Eid, by saying that the yavam died. And Rava has just a simple kal v'chomer. The kal v'chomer. Li'isa karasi tarta. For example, one Eid is always believed to say the husband died, to allow a woman to marry who's a former Ashes Ish, to marry somebody else. There's a possibility of Ashes Ish. Maybe the husband comes back and she was an Ashes Ish that was Mizana. Nevertheless, Chazal believed one aid. So L'Isser Lav, like Kolshkein, but here we're dealing with an Isser Lav. She's not married to anybody. She's just a lady in waiting, a Shemeres Yavam. So certainly one aid would believe. If for a married woman, we believe one aid to say your husband died, for an unmarried woman who's a Shemeres Yavam to say your brother-in-law died, certainly we would believe that. So that's a beautiful Kal V'Chaima. But Amalehu Marabban Rava, some of the rabbis said to Rava, you got it wrong. He atzma techiyah. Look at the woman herself. If she said testimony about herself, it says my husband died, we believe her. The li'isakaras hitarta. We believe her when she says her husband died. She can marry anybody she wants. Li'isa lav loy hitarta. But for an isalav for saying, oh, my brother-in-law died, we don't believe her. Why? Why don't we believe her? If she comes along and says, my husband died, we believe her. If she's a Shemeres Yavam and says, oh, my brother-in-law died and I'm not supposed to fall to Yibam, we don't believe her. Why? Because there's a self-interest. The Kavan, the Zimnin, the Sanyale, loy daika mitzvah. Maybe she hates the brother-in-law, so she's not going to investigate the matter further, and she's going to say, hey, this by herself and get married. She wants to be released from this Shemeres Yavam business. So therefore, you could say the same logic, even if it's a stranger. Eid echad name, if there's one aid saying the same thing, kivam, and we don't believe him to release a Shemeres Yavam, because he still need her on board to validate the Eid echad. And there's a possibility, kivan the zimni and the sanyale, loidaika uminasfa, since at some times she would not, she hates falling to Yibam, to this forced marriage, so she's not going to help along the situation by doing her own research. And therefore, if one aid comes, oh, Miss Shemeres Yavam, your brother-in-law died, we wouldn't believe that Eid echad. We actually would need, according to the way the Gemara comes to the conclusion almost, that you would actually need two Eidim to say that your brother-in-law died. And so if you think about what the Gemara comes to conclude, is that when a married woman, we believe one aid comes to a married woman and says, oh, your husband died, we release her and she can marry whoever she wants. That's our Mishnah. But according to the way the Gemara comes almost to the conclusion that one aid, a Shemeres Yavam, she's not married to anybody, she's supposed to fall to Yibam, and one aid comes and says, oh, your brother-in-law died, we wouldn't believe her, because we can't rely on her, because maybe she hated falling into this marriage and she's not going to do any research on her own. New Gemara, the Mishnah said, as we said before, that as we said before, that a woman that gets married, she was released to get married by one aid. She married somebody else, and then her husband showed up. She needs a get from both, not only from the second husband, but she can't go back to the first husband. But from what happens if she was only engaged, she only had kedushin with the second husband, and then the first guy showed up. So then she doesn't even need a get from the second person because they weren't really married. They just had kedushin, betrothal, but they never married. So the Mishnah says she doesn't need a get. And if she would get a get from the guy, it wouldn't passel her from kahuna ever. She won't be passel for a kohen if her original husband dies and she wants to marry a kohen, because it's like giving, if I go over to any woman and give her a get, it doesn't mean it. It's a meaningless get. And Reb Lazar ben Masya proved it from a pasuk. The Isha Grusham Isha, only a woman that's divorced from a real husband, that person can't marry a Kohen. But if just a woman with a divorce from somebody that's not her husband, that wouldn't invalidate her from marrying a Kohen. Amar Rav Yehuda Amar Rav, Havilei Rav Lazar Midrash Be Maganusa. He could have darshan a pearl, but darsh bechaspa, and he blew it. He darshan in the wrong matter, like he gets the booby prize. Because really, I won't need the chumash to tell you that if someone gives a get to a strange woman, that woman does not become pasal for kahuna, because that's obvious. So what is really the pasuk teaching you? My barganusa. So what is the pearl? What is the thing that you could learn from a pasuk? Well, you could learn something much stricter. The Tanya we learned in the Braisha, Isha begrusham Isha, afilu lo niskarsha elam Isha pesula lekahuna, hainu reach haget the paisel bekahuna. That a possibility exists that if a woman got a get from her husband, but the husband didn't give her a real get, he gave her a get and said, "You are permitted. You are we're divorced, but you're not permitted to marry anybody else." So that type of get. So he divorced him from him, but not from everybody else. That now she could go marry anybody else. So it's a funny type of get. So it's called the smell of a get. Even such a get, since it was given by her husband, that would pass a little for kuna. Of course, it's a possible get. A get has to be so validating to allow her to be released from her husband and marry anybody she wants. But here the Chumash is saying that even if it's a type of get that only divorces her from her husband, but does not permit her to marry anybody else, that type of get is psula lakuna. She can never marry a kohen, and that's what the Chumash is teaching you. Okay, new Mishnah. We learned as you know, very often it happens that a person. I knew it happened to my rabbi. His wife died, and he married his wife's sister, where I grew up in Kew Gardens. But this is very common. You can only marry your wife's sister after your wife dies. But the other thing that you have to know is that if a woman actually, as we said before, actually married somebody, and then the husband showed up, she has to get the get from both parties. She has to get a get from the second husband, and she also has to get it. She can't go back to her original husband. That we learned in the previous Mishnah. So look what the Mishnah says. If a man's wife went to Medina Siyam, they told him your wife died. Okay, you're permitted to marry. And he married her sister, right? And then his wife showed up. So he's married his wife's sister. He thought his wife died, and now his wife showed up. So then, mutaris lachs, the Mishnah says, we go to Amid Beis, mutaris lachs aloi, he's permitted to remarry his wife. He's permitted to remarry his wife. He's permitted to remarry his wife. Now, very, very important over here. Here, when his wife's sister, let's say he's married to Leah, and they told him Leah died, and he married Rachel, his wife's sister, right? So in that case, when his wife Leah shows up, Rachel leaves without a get. That's the point over here. Rachel leaves without a get because it's his wife's sister. He wasn't supposed to marry her. So Rachel leaves him without a get, and therefore he goes back to his original wife. Because if he had to give a get to Rachel, that means that he's giving a get to a woman, and everybody sees that this woman that he gave a get is Rachel, so he can't go marry Leah because it looks like he's marrying Achos Grushasai, the sister of the woman he just gave a divorce to. So therefore, Rachel, the girl, the sister, goes free without any get, and he's permitted to marry Leah.
He has to remarry his original wife?
Remarry his, good point. I mean, he's permitted to go back to her.
What if there were children from
say, right, and it's mamzer. That would be mamzer, right? Okay. Yeah, we're going to talk about that in the Mishnah. We're talking about, like, so far that there was no children. Not only that, he's not really married to his wife's sister. So let's say his wife's sister had a daughter, so from another marriage. He's permitted to marry that daughter because he was never married to Rachel, that sister. It was a fake marriage. Ushnia butaras b'krayvav, and the sister Rachel is permitted to marry his father or whatever because she was never really married to him. And not only that, the Mesa Rishayna, if his own wife died, let's say at a different date, Leah died, said mutaris bashnia, he's permitted to marry Rachel because his own wife died, and now the coast is clear, and he can really marry Rachel. Amrulai, but this is what you're saying, Steve. Amrulai Mesa Ishte, they told him your wife died. Vinasa Zechais, and he married the sister. Okay. Va'achar kach amrulai, in the middle of the marriage to his sister, they say that your wife was actually alive as you were married to the sister, but then she died. Kayama says she was alive. Umesan, she died at a later date. So he could remain married to the sister because his own original wife died. But at the beginning of the marriage, he wasn't supposed to marry her. He married her too early. So Havlad Rishon, the first child he had with her while his wife was still alive overseas, mamzer is a mamzer. But the children after his wife's death, a mamzer is not mamzer because he was permitted to marry her. Rabbi Yossi says, here, Rabbi Yossi, you're going to have to, I'm going to explain it outside so that we clearly understand it. Rabbi Yossi, we just said that when Rachel leaves, she goes out without a get. Let's say he was married to Leah, and then they told her Leah died, and he married Rachel, and then Leah shows up. Rachel leaves without a get. But sometimes Rachel would need a get. How? Because let's say Rachel was married to Yitzchak, another person, and her husband with Leah, her husband and this guy's wife, let's call him Reuven, who was married to Leah. Reuven, Leah and Yitzchak went to overseas. So the wife's sister's husband died, and his wife died, and then he married Rachel. So now when Yitzchak shows up, her husband shows up, and her sister shows up. So it's really bad. She's going to need a divorce from Reuven. She can't leave without a divorce because our Mishnah said that if she's a married woman that married somebody else, she needs a divorce from both parties. So once she's getting a divorce, then in that case, then this guy Reuven can't marry his wife back, because once he's giving a divorce to his wife's sister, so it looks like they were once married. Therefore, when he takes his wife's back, it looks like he's marrying his wife's sister, and that's a chois grushasai. That's what Rabbi Yossi meant. If you asa Rachel on her husband, therefore, then poisel al yedei atzmai, then you can't marry. You can't take back your own wife. If Rachel can't marry her husband, you can't marry your wife. If Rachel does not become asa to her husband, then you don't have any restrictions to remarry your wife. Let's just do the first couple of lines of the Gemara, and that will make it more clear. But our Mishnah said that you're allowed to retake your wife, right? The Tanakama holds you're allowed to retake back your wife, even though you were married for a short period of time to her sister. Now, ba'afagav, would our Mishnah hold if your wife and your brother-in-law, that means your wife's sister's husband also went to the country. I'm saying it's Yitzchak and Leah. Again, Reuven's married to Leah. Rachel, her sister, is married to Yitzchak. So Yitzchak is a brother-in-law to Reuven. what happens if Yitzchak and Leah go overseas, right? And they thought they both died. So Reuven married his wife's sister, Rachel. And then they both showed back up. So now Rachel is in real big trouble because she can't go back to her Yitzchak. Because the Hani Nisuin, the Kometasra Eishes Gisai Gisai, it asers her sister-in-law on her brother-in-law. Rachel cannot go back and marry Yitzchak, right? Because she was a married woman. So, and when a married woman marries somebody else, she can't go back to her original husband. Nevertheless, we allow the man, despite the fact that his sister-in-law has problems, he is permitted to go back to his original wife. We don't say to Reuven, since your sister-in-law, your Rachel, is now prohibited on her husband, therefore your wife should be prohibited on you. You asserted somebody, and therefore your wife should be asserted to you. And it's not just because you asserted somebody; it's because you probably are not supposed to give a get to that woman. It's an interesting thing that this would be the only case where a married woman gets married to somebody else, and when her husband shows up, you don't need to give a get. And because you don't need to give a get to that Rachel, that's why you're permitted to stay with your own wife. Lema masnisin the like Rabbi Kiva. Our Mishnah is not like Rabbi Kiva. Rabbi Kiva says you would be required to have a get in this case. In case it's the wife of your divorcee. You would be required to give Rachel a divorce. The time we learned in the Brisa, if somebody married, let's say his mother or his sister or whatever, he never has to give her a get. It's an illegal marriage. Everybody knows that. If there's one Ashes Ish that got married because of one aid, she married somebody else, and then her husband showed up, she needs a get from that second husband because people shouldn't think that women can leave their husbands without getting a divorce. So therefore, she needs a get. And Rabbi Kiva says, that we know from our Mishnah. Rabbi Kiva Moises af isha. If a person accidentally marries his wife's sister, Rabbi Kiva says you do need a get. That wife's sister needs a get. And Rabbi Kiva holds that you need a get. Oh, if she needs a get, then you're not permitted to take back your wife. Because if you're giving a get to Rachel, that means you were according to Rabbanan, you were married to her. Therefore, you can't go back to your original wife, Leah. So our Mishnah is not like Rabbi Akiva. And says the Gemara, so therefore, our Mishnah cannot go like Rabbi Akiva, that allows the person to go back to his original wife, Leah, his original wife. So the Gemara says our Mishnah could go like Rabbi Akiva. Rabbi Akiva only said that by only if you only gave kedushin to the wife's sister. So let's see. Lav itma lo Amar Gidol Marchi Bar Yosef Amarav. Hi Eshazach Hekadami Kagoin Shekidish Achev as Isha V'Holach Lemedina Siyam. When do you need a get? By the Eshazach, he said two cases. Eshazach and Achosh Isha is only if your brother gave kedushin to a woman and he went to Medina Siyam. V'shama Shemesach, and you heard your brother died. V'ama v'nasas Isha, then you married his wife, and then your brother showed up. The reason why you need a get over here, the Amra Inchi, people will say that the Ach Kama Tanai Hava, your brother that just did kedushin on the woman and then went to another country, it was a fake kedushin. It was a conditional kedushin, and therefore the conditions were not kept, and therefore it wasn't really kedushin. Bahai Shapinasav, and the second brother, the brother who married thinking that his brother died, he did a good marriage. So we cannot allow this woman to leave without a get. It's the same thing by the sister. When do you say a sister, marrying a sister needs a get? Is Kagoin, Shekidis is Isha. He made Kedushin on a woman, and she went to Medina Siyam. So he only made Kedushin on Leah. He didn't marry Leah. V'shama Shemesa, and then he heard that Leah died. Ahmed v'nasa Sachais, and then he married Rachel. So people will think that Damra Inche, if you let Rachel leave without anything, people will say, Ha Kamaisa Tanai Haba. He married Leah unconditional, and therefore he was never really married to Leah. Havale Kedushin. But the marriage to Rachel was good, and people will not know. And if you let Rachel leave without a get, people think that people can leave marriages without get. But Ellen is suing. But if he was originally married to Leah, right? If he were originally married to Leah, so therefore everybody knows that he was married to Leah, and he was not allowed to take Rachel. And the whole marriage to Rachel was one big mistake. And if Rachel leaves without a get, people are not going to make a mistake that women can leave marriages without a get. People say that he married Rachel by mistake. People will say that there was a condition on the marriage to Leah. When people married, they married for good. He married Leah for good. So he's always married to Leah, Rachel's sister. So if in the event that he accidentally married Rachel, and when Leah shows up, Rachel can leave without a get. And Rachel leaves without a get. Because Rachel leaves without a get, that's the reason why he can continue going back to his wife, Leah. Reuven can go back to his wife, Leah. I hope that was understood. But,
Yes.
Okay.
Is there a difference between, it doesn't look like it, but is